Hello, just wanted to do one more video about the Paris Olympics and how they mocked the Last Supper. Of course, you know that the Last Supper is a painting by Leonardo da Vinci, but it does reflect, or it's based on a biblical event where Jesus and his disciples, they sat down to eat the Passover, and that's when Jesus, in the Gospels, he changed the Passover meal to the Lord's Supper. In 1 Corinthians 11, the Apostle Paul says that this is a time where Christians are to examine themselves, and then they are to partake. So the word communion, because we call the Lord's Supper, we also call it communion. Communion means fellowship. This is a time to come together as a church. Okay, that's where you take communion as a church. We come together and we celebrate and enjoy our fellowship with God and with one another. That's what the Lord's Supper is all about. So here's the thing. I just want to flip the script a little bit. Okay, there's a lot of believers, a lot of professing Christians that are upset at what happened in Paris, and rightfully so. It's true, the heathen, the pagans, they don't care about the Lord's Supper. They can mock it all day long. They did mock it. Okay. They don't care about that. But my question is, how much do we care about the Lord's Supper as believers? I would just ask this: when is the last time you've taken the Lord's Supper? And I don't mean this as a rebuke, although if the shoe fits, wear it, I suppose. But a lot of Christians, a lot of professing believers out there, I mean, first of all the professing Christians in America, a lot of people don't even go to church. So if you're not going to church, you're not partaking in the Lord's Supper, because it's an ordinance of the church. An ordinance is something that Jesus Christ ordained. He said to his followers, do this. Do it. It's like a commandment. Do this in remembrance of me. So if people aren't even going to church, then they're obviously not partaking in the Lord's Supper, because it's an ordinance of the church. But even if people do go to church, some churches have communion once a week, once a month, once every other month, once a quarter, some once a year. If your church does it once in a while and you miss that Sunday, I mean, I suspect there's a lot of people watching. You can't even remember the last time that you've partaken of the Lord's Supper. So what I'm saying is, instead of being so upset about, the pagans and what they're doing, we should examine ourselves. I mean, this is what communion is all about. We should examine ourselves in our practice and say, do I care about the Lord's Supper? See, when the Apostle Paul wrote, and because when we celebrate the Lord's Supper, which we're doing that this Sunday at Morris Corner Church. So I'd say be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Be in church on Sunday. It's the first Sunday of the month. There's a good chance your local church is going to be celebrating the Lord's Supper this Sunday. So be there, be a blessing, partake, show the world that you actually care about this. You're not just upset at what they did in Paris. You care yourself, so you're going to be there and partake. That'd be the best thing to do. The best way to counter a pagan culture is with a strong church. So be there, but yeah, show people that you care. But Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 11, this is the passage we always use when we do communion. He wrote to the church and told them how to approach it, what the Lord's Supper is all about. Examine yourselves, all the rest. And it just dawned on me with the letter to the Corinthians, Paul is really not rebuking, the pagan culture in Corinth. He's not rebuking the Corinthians. He's not admonishing the unbelievers in society because they're doing all this evil stuff. He wasn't happy about it, but I mean, unbelievers do what unbelievers do. Paul is writing to admonish the church because they were not really valuing communion. It's supposed to be a time where believers come together in unity, and the Corinthian church was divided, and they had this, it was basically a hypocritical act to come together supposedly in unity when they were all fighting with one another. So he was admonishing the church. So if that's a way to look at this video, as I did the last video rebuking what they did in Paris, and it needs to be rebuked, absolutely. But this is more admonishing the church. We can be upset that they mocked the Lord's Supper, and we should be. I think we should be. But let's show that we actually care about the Lord's Supper. So again, this Sunday, probably your church is going to be holding communion this Sunday, so be there. be a blessing. Again, the best way to counter a pagan culture is with a strong church. Thanks for listening, and until next time, may the Lord be with you. Have a great day.